Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel I've created to not only just to bring the awareness of the day-to-day realities complex trauma creates, but also to delve into its mechanisms and explore ways to improve the quality of our lives on the path to healing. Now, in today's video, we all have times when when life completely overwhelms us. Now, for those who have not gone through trauma, that is harrowing enough. But when you have trauma thrown into the mix, it can be, the path out can seem, and in reality become, almost impossible. Sadly, the world won't step in. And it falls on us to end this cascade of bombardment, because we all know when we're overwhelmed, life doesn't stop. The bills still need to get paid. Income still needs to be created. The functionalities of doing what we were required for our daily survival, creating meals, doing shopping, all these things have to be done. So what do we do? For me, this is where it comes down to some very, very simple steps. Firstly, create a triage list. Whenever I'm overwhelmed, instinctively I know what I need to do for my day-to-day survival. Anybody who has lived with complex trauma for a long period of time, we have this basic survival kit. We go to that, create a triage list of what needs to be done. How do we create some very simple steps to get our head above water again? And each step becomes a decision. And the key with this is, one, you don't do the full-on or completely life-altering decisions when you're in this space. You don't end relationships. You don't quit jobs. You don't do these permanent affected life choices. This is not what I'm talking about. This is about getting your head above water. This is about creating the space to be able to breathe, to get an understanding of what is going on. So the first goal, as I said, is to create these little steps, and each step is a decision. And once we make these little decisions, we don't change them. Because with overwhelmment comes chaos. We need to remove the chaos. We need to get our nervous system and our body back on track to be able to start to assess our current environment. Because I said, when we're overwhelmed, our body will go back into the trauma environment. When we're triggered, the body will go back into the trauma environment. And if we had multiple layers of this, we have multiple layers of reaffirming that we're back in a threatening trauma environment. And we need to get our body out of that state to be able to recognize the options and choices and decisions that are around us and the opportunities to change our circumstance. And the only way for that is to create a foundation. Black and white. Purely self-orientated foundation. There are many ways of achieving this, and you are the best person to do it for yourself, because it's you, your reality, your world, your life. You understand what you require and what needs to be done. So start to make and enact these decisions, these choices. One little one at a time. The smaller the better. And build your path out. Because also, whilst you're doing this, you're teaching the body that you can affect change. One of the things trauma creates is overwhelmment, because we cannot respond to threat when things are happening. What created the trauma in the first place? Our body believes that we don't have the capacity to respond. It has to go into this freeze state. When we make these little decisions and enact them, we are teaching our body that we can change. We are teaching the body to move out of that free state, to create the gray areas needed to be able to fortify and move past our overwhelmment response. Because down the road, when we're trying to work with the triggers directly, the more gray area, the more gap we can create for our body going, I'm getting stressed, I need to go into this overwhelmment shutdown. The more space and distance we can create in that, the more area we have to work with processing memory. Like in the last video when I was talking about MDMA, that is what its support is there for. But as part of that, we also need to build this breadth of gray areas in our responses so our body doesn't instantly just go to this fallback state. And by doing that, when we're overwhelmed and making these little decisions, we are in an ecology of threat, but we are taking little steps to get ourselves out of that threat. And as I said, that is teaching our body that we can affect change. It don't matter how small those steps are. It can be as simple as doing a load of laundry. Do one thing for yourself every day. It can be organizing to pay a bill. It can be these little steps. It can be making yourself some soup from scratch if you have the resources. It's doing these little things that support our body to come out of that overwhelming state, to be able to make the more critical decisions that we need to in our day-to-day functionality, but also to teach our body that we can. That is about as complicated as I want to get with this one, because when we're overwhelmed, as I've said, teaching the body is key. Creating gray areas is key. Creating the space to negotiate is key. So when we're overwhelmed, create your triage list. The things that are hypercritical that need to be done, we need to find ways to fulfill those requirements. Create the little steps that can empower us to fulfill those requirements. And each step is a decision. Make the decision. Once the decision's made, enact the decision. Don't change it. And we just systematically work up the list. That is the only real way we can work with overwhelmment in the beginning. Down the road, we may be able to create support bases and have mechanisms in place, but for the most of us, we're alone when we're in that space, because that's what trauma creates. So if you do this, it will help. And you are teaching your body that you can. As always, I love your guys' feedback and comments. Please be kind, please be gentle. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Hope.